What up? It's Ed Park, aka Taugrim. My previous video was a second round 5v5 tournament match with the vent audio. This is the same footage but with my narrated commentary. We started off short-handed 4 versus 5 because one of our teammates, Rioser, had to reboot his computer. The cool thing is that you can rejoin a match even if you get disconnected. So my responsibility was Mansion. We managed to cap 2 of the 3 points, but then a Mesmer came and flipped Mansion, so I have to go take it back. And after opening up with the Rifle 4 vulnerability debuff, I hit him with a Rifle 3, and the channel goes all the way up to 6k, and since I have full adrenaline, I go ahead and cast the kill shot, the long cast burst ability. It turns out he doesn't counter it, so I keep that in reference for future. But usually I don't crit people for 9k very often. It's usually only when they spec glass cannony. So I was putting out some pretty significant deeps on this Mesmer, but he uses his I win button, aka the elite skill Moa Bird, which will transform you into a Moa Bird for 10 seconds. You can't use your elite abilities. It kind of sucks. Anyway, so I come back here and use the Axe 3 to snare him, Axe 2 for the armor debuff, and the Axe ability is really, really good. I mean, it just deals a lot of damage. You know, the main catch is for the auto attack chain to hit, you got to be within melee range. I switch over to the Rifle ability, use Rifle 4 for the debuff. I'm constantly trying to keep vulnerability stacked on him, use Rifle 3 channel, and then I sit down here and get an 8400 crit from Killshot because, you know, as you noticed from the previous clip, when he killed me after the Moa morph, he didn't dodge the previous kill shot. So again, you know, like, one thing to look for in tournaments and opponents is to see what their tendencies are. And if I know they're not going to counter certain abilities or are not likely to counter them, then I'll go ahead and use them. You guys may remember from a 1v1s video that I posted earlier against a Necro, he countered the first 2 kill shots that I tried to cast. But the third one he didn't, and it hit him pretty hard. So this Guardian's holding the node here. He pops his Shield of Absorption a little bit too early before it can knock me out of the circle. And what I do here is I burn my Fear Me Shout perpendicular to the node, so he's forced to run back around. And as he's running back, I switch to my rifle, hit him with a Rifle 2 for the cripple to delay his movement. And then I knock him down with a Rifle 5. And again, he has to come around the long way. I switch over to the axes, hit him with an Axe 3 for a snare. And you can see between these knockbacks and the cripple effects, I keep him out of the midpoint, even though it was fully capped red, and managed to flip it to blue. So at this point, now that I've flipped the node, my main concern is now trying to kill this guy, switch over to axes and start, you know, punching him in the face with it. The axe, again, it hits really, really hard. It's a very good one-handed weapon. And then Rioser, who had finally joined the match, came in and ninja the killing blow from me. Thanks, Rioser. We did start the match with predefined roles. My responsibility was Mansion to Clock Tower, Sujitsu was Clock Tower, Lightweight was on the Trebuchet, Rindar was on the enemy, Trebuchet to Windmill, and then Rioser was our floater. So Rioser and I are burying this engineer at a pretty steep HP deficit, so Rioser takes off, and then I'm pursuing the engineer. I assumed that he was running. Turns out he's just behind the corner here. I was about to heal up, but I go ahead and interrupt my heal, which you can interrupt your own abilities by doing things like dodge, and you know, it'll just put a 5-second cooldown. You can use it again later. Right here I make a mistake. I try to use my Rifle 5 knockback, but the engineer was crouched in his block position, so I should have seen that, but I missed it. It's okay because he's already pretty far behind in terms of HP, and then I bury him with a Rifle 3 channel. He knocks me down when I'm trying to finish him, and I just finish him off. Since we're communicating on Vent, I know that Rioser is trying to make his way over to Mansion, but that he has a Greatsword Warrior who's following him. So I go ahead and hop down here, and I knock back the warrior deep into the alley, and this provides me with a field of fire on him, and I nail him with a 7500 kill shot crit. Now, it's unusual to hit a warrior that hard, so this is another player on this team who has spec'd as a glass cannon, and you know, these are things that we take note of, because in a situation where there are multiple targets, we're going to pick the glass cannon specs and tunnel them mercilessly, because if we apply sufficient pressure, they're going to die quickly, and they're going to have to go into turtle mode. Otherwise, you know, there's really not much that they can do. If we can apply enough pressure to shut down their DPS, they're essentially taken out of the fight. So I come up to the clock tower to help Sujitsu, and I burn my Fear Bomb there to buy time for Sujitsu to get some visibilities off cooldown. And then we're calling in some artillery support from Lightweight. I get immobilized right here by the Necro. I go ahead and counter that with a Shake It Off and then kill the Necro. But 2 other opponents who are coming out of the graveyard here making their way toward the clock tower, so I go ahead and pull off. Now, it's pretty hard to finish one player when there's another enemy player up, let alone 2, and I was afraid if I stay down there and try to go for the finish that I might have been killed, and then it would leave Sujitsu up here in a 1 versus 3. One thing you may have noticed if you've watched my previous videos, I've switched 2 of my utility skills to pick up additional shouts. So I picked up Shake It Off and then Fear Me. Part of the reason was because the Melandry set, which I used previously, was nerfed pretty steeply from a 45% reduction in condition duration down to 25%, so I think it's not really useful anymore. I think a balance would be around 35%. Right here I make a mistake. I had a window after that trebuchet round to revive Reosur, but I get tunnel vision here trying to kill this warrior, which is a mistake. Definitely I should have revived him first. I had a window, I probably could have gotten him back up. This warrior I know is pretty squishy because we just killed him a few minutes ago, and then I hit him with a 5800 crit from kill shot, and then we finish him off. Now what I didn't realize is that Reosur had popped his downstate 3 ability, which gives him a temporary life. And so I come over here and try to revive him, and he's like, no dude, like I'm hard down. I was like, oh okay. So it's just me and this guardian at this point. I go ahead and he uses the shield of absorption there to knock me out of the objective area, which is, a good thing to do. And then I try to knock him out with a rifle 5 knockback, but it doesn't land. And then I go ahead and switch over to the axes. Now, one thing I didn't use in this fight I could have was the Warhorn 5, which applies a weakness condition, which will cause your opponent's non-crits to have a 50% chance to only land for half damage. You'll see the message glancing below. But I didn't really need it against this Guardian because I fought him before. I know his damage is not that good, so I just want to kill him as quickly as possible. And then notice after he knocks me back, while I'm moving back up to finish him, I go ahead and use my heal as I run up. So it's important, like whenever you have dead time like that, to go ahead and use abilities. Now, I do make some mistakes in this video. One notable thing is when I activate my Warhorn 4 for the sprint buff, that I activate the Warhorn 5 ability as well, and I shouldn't do that unless I need the Vigor regeneration buff or, in order to apply weakness on opponents. So Rios was calling for help over at Windmill, so I go ahead and traverse the map and knock this engineer out of the objective area with a rifle 5, and then I'm guessing here in a second that he's not really watching what I'm doing since he's got 2 players on him, and I go ahead and hit him with a 6800 crit from kill shot. So the amount of usage that I'll get out of kill shot really depends on the opponents. If I believe that they are not watching me firing, or that they're not likely to counter, maybe they don't have enough endurance because I've seen them dodge roll a couple times, I'll go ahead and use it. I'd like to thank you folks who've been commenting on my videos and giving me feedback. The last video I posted, people said they'd prefer to hear my narrated commentary instead of the event audio, so I'll keep that in mind for future videos. And per the poll that I ran before this weekend, the class that people were most interested in seeing me play was Mesmer, so I'm really excited to show you my first look at Mesmer. I played a spec built around illusion buffs and phantasm damage, and it was a very different experience from the other class that I've played. It was a lot of fun. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like, share, favorite, and subscribe, and post your comments and feedback in the space below. Take care and thanks for watching.